In the beginning of the movie, we first see a man sitting in a dark room crying. He was about to burn some papers, but the lighter was not working, so he went to the kitchen to get a lighter. After getting the lighter, he returns to his room, but on the way, he sees that the door beside his room was open, so he goes to check. He then suddenly falls to the ground extremely scared, and then runs away from there screaming. Then we get to see what he got scared of. There was a person hanging in that room. At that moment, we hear a voice that says, "Now we have to call Zion Gin." In the next scene, we see a child crying holding fake eyeball. It was a horror house where Zion Gin works part-time, and the child was crying because he got lost. Jin was shouting at the kid because he pulled the eyeball from his costume. The kid's mom then arrived there, and the boss fires Jin for this misbehavior. In return, Jin punched the boss and scared asked the boss not to call his school or uncle. The next day, Jin was sleeping peacefully when he gets a call from his uncle to ask if he went to school. But his aunt takes the phone and starts scolding him. Hearing this, Jin quickly gets ready to go to school. On the way, when Gin was still getting scolded by his aunt, we see another boy named Lin, who was cycling. He then falls down while trying to race with Gin. Later, at school, Jin's introduction is given in front of the whole class. Afterwards, the teacher tells Jin to go sit next to Little Princess. Jin goes and stands next to a beautiful girl, but she is not Little Princess. Then Jin goes and sits next to a fat girl, but she is also not Little Princess. Then the teacher says the boy on his right is Little Princess, and his real name is Ham. Later, when the class is over, Jin sees a voice message on his phone from his grandmother, who is telling him about his grandfather's health, that his grandfather is in a very bad condition, so Gin should return home and take over the family business. While listening to this voice message, Gin enters the washroom and he sees some boys badly harassing a student. But Gin doesn't pay much attention to them. Then one of those boys comes to Gin and starts bothering him, because of which Gin can't hear the voice messages and gets angry. So he hits the boy. Seeing this, all that other bullies come to hit Gin, but he single-handedly teaches all of them a lesson. They were harassing none other than Little Princess. So he comes to Gin and thanks him. Then Lin comes out from another stall who, out of fear of those bullies, had been hiding in the washroom. Just then, the teacher came in and predicted that the three them are the bullies. Everyone in the school then started spreading rumors about them. The school bullies then started targeting the three of them and harassed Lin and Ham. They don't do anything to Gin because they know he is very good at fighting. One day, fed up with the bullies, Lin decides to commit suicide, but he can't do it because the school roof's wall is very high. When he turns around, he sees Jin eating behind him. He comes to him and starts calling him responsible for the whole situation, because if Gin hadn't interfered, none of this would have happened. Just then, Gin got a call from his grandmother, but he did nor pick it up. Then the school office makes an announcement for Gin to check his phone. So, he checked his phone, which has a photo of his grandfather, and his condition is very serious. Seeing this, Gin immediately catches a train to his village. Now we see that Lin and Ham are also sitting behind Gin. They also want to go with him because if they stay at the school, the bullies will beat them even more. So this time they have to stay with Gin. On the way, we get to know Gin's family owns a hot spring hotel and his mom and dad are no more and that his grandparents manages it. Hearing this, both of them felt very bad for him. He then tells them he has no interest in managing that hotel. When Lin and Ham sees the photos of the hotel, it looked very magnificent to them. But it's not like that at all. When the three of them see the hotel in real life, it is very old and dirty. Just then, they hear screaming from inside. So, the three of them start peeking secretly. We see that two guests were not at all happy with the hotel, so they started demanding their money back. So, Gin's grandfather deliberately coughed blood on the money. Seeing this, those guests left without taking their money. Outside, Gin and his two friends come in front of his grandparents. His grandmother, surprised, takes out Gin's childhood photo, and then running to Ham, mistaking him for Gin. And Grandpa goes to Lin, mistaking him for Gin, which made Gin angry at his grandparents. Then they ask Gin about Suzuki, but Gin doesn't know who they are talking about. In the next scene, we see a girl going to Gin's school looking for his, but in the class, she sees Gin loves Little Princess written in the board. So she asks others about Little Princess and find that Little Princess is a boy. In the hotel, we see that the grandparents gave them a tour of the hotel. Everything in the hotel was old and needed money to be used. They then told them about their family history and hotel business journey. We then see two lizards watching Jin. In the night, the grandparents get a call from the girl, but the grandparents couldn't hear anything because of the rain. Afterwards, when the three of them goes to their room to sleep, everything there is completely broken. The bell doesn't work, and when Gin sat on the chair, it broke. The light in Ham's room keeps flickering. We then see Gin practicing to welcome guests in the reception, but Ham and Lin sees him and asks him to go to the hot spring with them, but Gin says no. When they were in the hot spring, Ham feels something weird. Later, at exactly midnight, all the lights in the hotel turned off. Jin feels as if someone is calling his name, so he comes out to check. Just then, suddenly someone grabs his leg from below. When Gin looks down, it is none other than Ham, and it was him calling Gin. He then said he heard strange noises, so he came out of fear. Just then, Ham sees someone's feet behind Gin, but that too is none other than Lin, who was sleepwalking. Seeing this, Gin thinks that maybe he was hearing Lin sleepwalking. So, all three go back to their room to sleep. The next morning, Gin's grandmother tells them that she has put covers on all the empty room's furniture so that daily cleaning isn't required because keeping servants is very expensive. So, she tells them to wash those covers. When Gin was taking them, the telephone rings. When Gin answers it, no one speaks from the other side. Then, when Gin comes out, he sees Lin and Ham playing in the hot spring, throwing water on each other, even though they did not want to, because Gin's grandfather was taking their photo to put on the hotel's website. When Lin and Ham are coming out of the hot spring, Lin falls and gets a cut on his hand. Seeing it, Lin gets scared and wanted to go to the hospital. Grandma then tells Jin that there is a first aid box in the old house. The three of them goes there only to find a room. There, Jin finds a camera which had many memories of his parents. In it, Jin is playing with his parents, his mom and dad coming to his hotel as guests, and he welcomes them. Gin's childhood dream was to become a hotel manager. Just then, Lin and Ham start watching the video from behind, so he immediately takes them both out from there. When getting out, we again see two lizards looking at Gin and also see the hotel model Jin used to play with as a kid. That evening, we see that Ham asks Lin and Gin to come with him to the hot spring, but they both refuse to go. Then Ham goes alone to the hot spring. When in the hot spring, he heard someone else get in, so he goes to check. Suddenly, he sees a hand coming out from inside the water. Seeing this, Ham gets terrified and falls in the water. And at the same time, Ling was watching TV when the TV turns off. So, he goes to insert a coin. That's when he sees a shadow behind him, but there was no one there. And on the other side, Ham, without clothes, goes straight to Gin and grabs him out of fear. Ling had also seen them like this, so he quietly starts to leave from there. But Gin punches Ham, knocking him out. Afterwards, we see that when Ham regains consciousness and he tells them that he saw a ghost. But they don't believe him at all and tell him to go to his room. After that, we see that it's night, and Lin starts sleepwalking again. He goes and lies down on the floor. Just then, he hears some strange noises, because of which Lin wakes up, and just as he was about to check under his bed, he sees 2 feet above him. Seeing this, he also gets terrified and runs to Gin and grabs him. So now, after hearing his story too, Gin tells them, "Until you see that ghost's face, don't come to me," and then tells them to leave if they are so scared. The next day, Lin and Ham called their family, but the phone was answered by the bully. Then we see Gin asking his grandfather about the hotel model, but grandfather was sick, so couldn't answer. From that night, they both slept with Gin in his room, where they both bother him a lot the whole night. Lin, who was looking like a zombie in his sleep, kept bothering him by staring at him in his sleep and sleep-talking, and Ham kept pulling Gin's blanket away and pulled Gin's hair. They even bothered him with washroom too, so he was forced to go to another washroom. Just as he was about to leave from there, he hears some noises, so he called for Lin and Ham but got no answer. When he turns back to look, he sees feet coming out from inside of the locker. Seeing this, Gin got terrified, so he starts crawling away quietly from there. When he looks up at the ceiling, he saw hands in the mirror. Gin then runs away from there and goes to Lin and Ham and hugs them both and tells them that he also saw a ghost. Hearing this, Lin and Ham ask, "Did you see its face?" To this, he says, "I only saw its hands and feet." Then they go to the grandmother and ask her, "Have you seen any ghost here?" To this, she closes the gate without giving any answer. But when Ling peeks inside the gate and sees grandfather sleeping in the dark, they start to think that perhaps Gin's grandmother and grandfather have already died, and these are just their souls. At first, Gin doesn't believe this at all, but then, the next morning, to confirm this, he goes to his grandmother with Lin to check her heartbeat. So now, while talking, Lin tries to check grandmother's heartbeat. Seeing this, Jin's grandmother gets very angry, and Jin gives Lin a slap to handle the situation. And on the other hand, Ham also goes to grandfather. There, he was just about to check grandfather's heartbeat when he wakes up. Seeing this, Ham gets so scared that he screams very loudly. Hearing his scream, everyone else comes to Grandpa's room and are quite surprised to see Ham on top of Grandpa. We see that these three are now confirmed that Gin's grandparents are not ghosts. Then Gin says, "Then why isn't our hotel running? Is it happening because of that ghost whose hands and feet we three saw?" Hearing this, Ham and Ling tell him not to say that and say, "Don't say that word. If you say it, they will come to us." To which Gin says, "What ghost?" The moment he says this, the gas stove turns off by itself, and these three get even more scared. And then, because Grandma arrives there, these three quietly leave from there. Then they make a plan to get rid of the ghost with their masculine power. And then the next day, Jin and these two start cleaning the place where they had seen the ghost's hands and feet. And then, when night falls, they say that now the ghost must have run away from this house because we three acted as if we were not at all afraid of it. Just then, they hear noises from outside. When they go out to check, the telephone rings. On the other side, Jin hears a girl crying from it. Hearing it, he runs away out of fear and tells his grandparents about it, but they hear nothing and start to leave. Just then, Gin sees the ghost's hands and feet behind the grandparents. So, he screams and shouts to them that there is a ghost behind them, but the grandparents can't see it and start going back to their room. So, seeing this, Lin tells Gin to curse at the ghost, so he starts giving the ghosts dirty curses, and after hearing them, Grandpa faints. Then, after Grandpa regains consciousness, he starts reminding Jin of his responsibilities, that he has to manage the hotel now, so he shouldn't act like a child. Hearing this, Jin refuses to do so and gets angry, and with his friends, starts to leave the hotel. Just as they are about to leave, these three hear strange noises from the hot springs. Hearing it, they get scared. And then, when Gin looks carefully towards the hot spring, these three see a body floating and coming out from there. Seeing this, Jin wanted to know whose body it was. He goes forward and tries to remove the towel from the body's face. From this, he finds out that the body is none other than his grandfather's. Seeing this, he goes into shock, and Lin says, "See, I told you before that your grandfather is not alive." But by mistake, Gin pushes Lin into the water, and Ham also falls in. There, Gin sees Grandpa's eyes open. These three run away from there immediately. Hearing the noise, Grandma comes out. So, Lin, thinking she is also a ghost, starts hitting her. The scene then shows everyone sitting together as well as Grandpa, so he is not dead, but alive. He had just fallen asleep while bathing in the hot spring. Then, when Gin asks them, "Have you seen any ghost here?" To this, they say, "No, there is no ghost in our hotel." Gin then saw the hair on Lin and asked where did he find it. The grandparents said the spring was not cleaned for 6 years, so there might be stuff jammed there. They then said they sometimes see Gin's parents here, probably because we still miss them a lot. Hearing about his parents, Gin gets quite emotional. Just then, the reception's bell rings. As they all come out to check, there she was, the girl named Suzuki, who is Gin's childhood friend, who often comes to the hotel to meet Gin's grandparents. She asks Gin, "I called you so many times. Why didn't you answer my calls?" Hearing this, all their misunderstandings are cleared. The calls that kept coming in Gin's room were from Suzuki. The voice of the girl crying was also Suzuki's, and the voice Gin heard in the beginning calling his name was also Suzuki shouting from the mountains, because she likes Gin a lot since childhood. But when Home and Lin introduce themselves to Suzuki, she shouts at them and leaves from there. After that, the three of went to clean the spring. There, they start to know more about the ghost. Meanwhile, we see that Grandma says, "Today we stopped Jin from leaving, but how will we stop him next time?" To that, Grandpa says, "We shouldn't wait any longer. At that time, Grandma is shown fixing the hair of a woman, and on the other side, we are shown that Lin and Ham are bathing in the hot spring. Jin is also with them because he was afraid of ghosts and couldn't stay alone inside the house. Then Ham asks Gin to also come inside the hot spring with them. He says, "No, I can't. My mom also died in a hot spring." Hearing this, Ling and Ham quickly start coming out of the water, so he says, "Not in this one." Gin tells them that when he was young, his parents had gone to visit Japan. There, due to a sudden heart attack, his dad died. Before he could tell them the rest of the story, Suzuki also arrives. Then the story continues after that. His mom started drinking heavily, and she died in a hot spring because she got too hot. And before she died, she said if it was not for this ghost hotel, his father would be alive. After that, Ham also told that his bully Bat was his friend before, but later started bullying him. Ham then told Gin if his parents saw him now, they would be disappointed because he gave up his dream. After coming out of the hot spring, when Lin and Ham were going to their room, they smell something. Just then Jin comes behind them and goes to check. Lin is not at all ready for this, but he couldn't stay alone either, so he also has to go with these two. But instead of looking inside the rooms themselves, they decide to click photos of the rooms, and then they start clicking photos of all the rooms. When checking the photos, Lin kept screaming out of fear. They then see that in one photo, someone is sitting on the bed covered with a blanket. Seeing this, the Lin faints out of fear. Then the three of them enter the room. When they, scared, lift the blanket, they see that there is no one there. Seeing this, all three of them get scared and goes to his grandparents' room, but no answer comes from inside, so Gin starts breaking the door. Meanwhile, Suzuki also arrives there and she breaks the door. After that, now they all see that Grandpa and Grandma are not in their room, and by looking at all the things kept there, they realize that perhaps Grandpa and Grandma are trying to bring Jin's parents back to this world. That's why all this is happening. They then goes to the old house where Gin finds the hotel model. They then realize the ghosts are none other than Jin's parents. Hearing this, Jin decides that he will bring peace to his parents' souls. And with his friends, he starts putting white powder everywhere in the hotel, so that if anyone walks, their footprints will be visible. After that, they went to a room and all of them kept a candle with them. Jin then hears noises from outside. When they all start going to check, Gin tells Suzuki to stay there. Suzuki asks, "Why? Because I am a girl." To this, he says, "No, but because only you know how to ride a bike, so if something happens to us three, only you will be able to get help." After that, these three go near the reception. They find the guest book open and scribble on it. And it was raining heavily outside. Because of this, when Lin went to close the window, something appeared in front of him. Seeing this, Lin got scared, and when he looked, it was just a branch. When they were leaving, we can see someone was climbing the stairs, and on the other hand, Suzuki was looking at the photos when she heard noises from the bathroom. When she goes there, she sees a lizard and it went through a secret passage there. The scene shifts back to Gin and his friends, who see that footprints have appeared on the stairs, but footprints end after it. Just then, a door opens in front of them, and the scene shifts back to Suzuki. We see that Suzuki has entered a passage above the bathroom by following the lizards, and Jin and his friends again see footprints. When they followed them, they ended in a room corner. And then when these three look up, a female ghost was sitting there, and within a few seconds, they see another ghost also starts coming towards them. Gin then sees the ghost's feet and water dripping from the ghost. Seeing this, Gin thinks that these two are his parents, so he moves towards them and kneels down and says, "Please don't harm these two, because they are my friends. I know that both of you are angry with me because I am not taking the responsibility of this hotel, but please don't punish others for my mistake. You can take me with you." Hearing this, the ghost moves forward again. Seeing this, Ham and Lin tries to stop Gin from doing this. When Gin doesn't go, then Ham throws the candle at the ghost, but the ghosts don't stop. Ham then hugs Gin and says, "I will protect you." Then Lin also comes to Gin and starts pleading with his parents not to do this, but the ghosts kept walking. Gin closes his eyes, and then when he opens them, he sees that the ghost has grabbed Ham's face. Seeing this situation, Ham says, "Your family has mistaken me for you again." Hearing this, Gin puts his face in the ghost's hands and says, "Mom, this is not Jin, but I am." Hearing this, when the ghost looks towards Gin, Gin realizes that it is not his mom, but someone else. So, he shouts loudly and tells his friends to run away from there. Hearing this, Lin and Ham also start running away with Gin. And on the other hand, Suzuki has reached the secret room. She finds hair there and also sees a hand and that a rope is being pulled on a roller. She tries very hard to catch it but can't and starts pulling the rope and breaking the roller. And there, both the ghosts are chasing Jin and his friends. In an attempt to save themselves, Ham throws his mobile phone at them and they escape. These three stop at a corner, but then they see that due to the mobile battery dying, their mobile turns off. So now these three have to crawl back to get that mobile which Ham had thrown at the ghosts. When Ham finds his mobile and turns on its flashlight, he sees that the ghosts are right in front of him. Seeing this, Lin tells them all to hold their breath. And then Ham also holds his breath and starts to leave from there, but the ghost grabs him from behind and was about to take him up with him. But just then, Gin and Lin also grab Ham from below, and Suzuki was trying to break the roller above. Gin then sees a rope above the ghost, so he tells Lin to pull Ham down and runs from behind and cuts the rope. At the same time, Suzuki breaks the roller and also breaks the roof, which fell on top of Jin and the others. Because of this, Ham falls on Gin, and the ghost falls on Lin. There, when Lin sees the ghost's face up close, he panics and faints. After that, Gin was about to hit the ghost from behind when another ghost comes running from the front, which is none other than Gin's grandmother, who shouts and says, "Gin, stop, don't hit, that is your grandfather." Hearing this, Gin gets confused and sees that it is his grandfather. After that, we see Grandpa admitted to the hospital. When he regains consciousness, he gets very angry with Gin and says, "I will never accept your relationship." Grandpa was having this misunderstanding that Ham and Gin are a couple. And Grandma, who was still in the ghost costume and crying a lot for Grandpa, and Lin was behind her, seeing her in this condition, a patient in the hospital gets scared because he thinks this woman is really a ghost, so he runs away from there screaming. Now, Grandpa tells Jin that Suzuki told Grandma many times but they did not believe her, but they now saw how close both of them are. Jin then told them it was not true, they are not in love. He then asked why they acted as ghosts. Then Grandfather said Gin, his mom, and his dad's dream from the very beginning was to make their hotel a haunted hotel because haunted hotels are fun and the earnings are good too. And to discuss this idea, they had called Jin here, but he brought 2 guinea pigs with him. So they decided to try this idea first on his 2 friends so that they would run away from here. Then we see that Gin's grandparents had built many secret passages throughout the hotel, through which they could easily move from one room to another. And when Grandma was talking to the long-haired woman, it was not a ghost, but a doll. And everything that had happened in the hotel so far was all the doing of Grandpa and Grandma. Jin is quite surprised to hear all these revelations. He then gets to know his parents went to Japan to know about this kind of hotel. And outside we see Lin telling Suzuki maybe they told him about them loving each other. Hearing it, Suzuki fainted. In the next scene, we see Gin inside the hotel, where he is looking at all his childhood belongings, and then starts imagining, as if he has made a ghost hotel and has brought his mom and dad to show them and scaring them with many things. Gin starts imagining here that if his parents were alive, how happy they would be seeing this ghost hotel. Lastly, Gin says goodbye to his mom and dad and promises that he will make this hotel even better. Hearing this, his parents leave happily from there. After that, the 3 of them were in the hot spring when Gin tells his friends that when he was small, he used to go see haunted houses with his mom and dad, where his family would hold him tightly, and then they all used to have a lot of fun together. That's why Gin used to do a part-time job in a ghost house along with school, so that he could see the same love in other families that he used to see in his own family. While talking, Lin and Gin finds out that the rumors about Ham being a gay was not true, that he likes Bat and Bat was a girl. Now we are shown a scene a few months later, where many guests have come to Gin's hotel, all of whom were his classmates and teachers. There we see that the hotel has become much better than before, and in this hotel, Lin and Ham are also supporting Gin, and along with that, Suzuki is also helping Gin. Then we see that Gin's uncle and auntie also came to the hotel, and they all hug together. They then ask about the grandparents. In the end, we viewers are given a tour of the hotel and shown that the grandparents are hiding in the secret room to scare the guests, and the movie ends here.